What's going on, guys? MMA Island team. We got the fight picks, and we got a very interesting fight in the heavyweight division. We got Alexander Romanov taking on Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Man, we saw De Lima take on Ben Sassoli, the combat wombat, and knocking him out in the first round. Romanov was supposed to fight Marcin Tybura in his last fight, and then tested positive for COVID, if I'm not mistaken.
And then booked against Pessoa before that.
Yeah, so he gets his USA debut finally against De Lima. And really interesting matchup, as I mentioned, because these dudes are both very, very good strikers, but Romanov is also very, very good on the ground. So that's kind of how I have to look at that fight. And I just think Romanov is going to have an advantage on the ground. Looking at the finishes, not even just looking at the tape, looking at their record, 6 submissions coming from Romanov's side. And 4 submission losses on De Lima's side. Out of his 6 losses, his last 4 all coming by submission loss. Albeit against some pretty good competition, Nikita Krylov, Getji Murata Antigulov, Oben St. Preux, Stefan Struve. But I honestly think that Romanov's going to be able to go in there and kind of implement his game, show what he's been able to do against the lower ranked opponents. I think that he's able to do this against De Lima. Because that's one thing about Ben Sassoli. I honestly thought that Ben Sassoli was going to be able to last a little bit better in the striking game, but in that fight, he really couldn't. So that's one thing I think Romanov's going to be able to do. Just be able to be a little like he's got the height advantage on him as well. So I don't know, man. I just don't think that De Lima is going to be able to put anything on him that Romanov really hasn't seen before. Romanov has finished every single one of his fights. And throwback to one of my things that I've been trying not to say so much because it's kind of casual like to say, but it's kind of true at the same time. If you think about it, these guys are undefeated for a reason. The guys that they fought, no sort of negatives you can point out when you look at the game, when you look at the record. And especially if you're going to point out any negatives on Romanov's side, I really don't think De Lima is going to be able to point out any of those. So I'll have to be going with Alexander Romanov on this one. Really excited to see him get his UFC debut here. So yeah, I think this one's pretty good for me. I think I'll take a submission win on this one just to see that Romanov's been able to get these submissions. He's got the forearm choke, which is not something you see very often, and he's got it twice on his record. So I really, like as I mentioned, really excited for this one. I think it's pretty evident to me how this one's going to end. Looking at a guy who's been finished 4 times more than he's been finished by submission 4 times more than by decision or KO. And then obviously Romanov is a very good submission, very good at the submissions. So I'll take Romanov in this one by submission. I called the Poliana Viana, which was the second fight, by submission. So I don't know if I want to do it for this one. We'll call it rear naked choke. I did the most common one in women's MMA. I'll do the most common one in men's MMA by rear naked choke.
Don't mention Poliana Viana. I fucking hate her. She was the only reason why I did not get a perfect card last week. This close. We're hoping to rebound again this week. And now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my lock of the week, Alexander Romanov. So if we look at this, everything tells you that Romanov is going to win. First of all, let's just talk about this fight's going to go to the ground. Romanov is going to want to take it there. Will he be able to? Absolutely. The takedown defense for Marcos Rogerio de Lima is an abysmal 36%. And you may think, okay, well, that's not a big enough sample size. It absolutely is. This guy has, if I can count him up, I don't want to do that and waste time, but he has at least 10 UFC fights.
Especially in the heavyweight division, to have a takedown defense that low in the heavyweight division when these guys are huge.
It's terrible. It's terrible. And the one thing that Marcos Rogerio de Lima has that's pretty much it is his power. That's about it. And if you know me, you know I love to fade these one-dimensional power strikers. If you're not Francis Ngannou, then you cannot do it. Your power has to be literally game-breaking for you to succeed on the highest level if that's the only thing you want to rely on. And that's why only Ngannou has to do that so far. And that's why I've faded Maki Pitolo in every single fight that he's done. And that's why I also love to fade Marcos Rogerio de Lima when he isn't facing regional competition. All of his wins in the UFC are not good. Ben Sassoli, okay, he's not UFC caliber. And the rest of his wins aren't even in the UFC anymore. His best one being Clint Hester. And if Clint Hester is your best win, that's not too good. And when this fight goes to the ground, and it will go to the ground, that Sambo background from Alexander Romanov is going to help him immensely. He's going to have his way on the ground. And the other thing is Rogerio de Lima gasses out. His cardio is not all there. And from the tape I saw on Romanov, he does not have this same problem. Now, that may be different, him coming into the UFC, flying overseas, that may be different because we've seen that happen before. But I'm confident that it's not going to. Now, on the feet, will this fight be competitive? Absolutely. I do think that Romanov has the technique advantage while Rogerio de Lima has the power advantage. But on the ground, it's a whole different universe. You are swimming in the deepest ocean. And as Khabib says, Romanov will drown you. And I don't think this fight is really going to be close. I think this is the perfect fight for Alexander Romanov, a very solid prospect. And Lord knows the heavyweight division needs that. Cyril Gane is carrying the entire prospect heavyweight division on his back. Hopefully, Romanov can come and take the load off of it.
All right, so we got an agreement again, both going with Romanov on this one. If you guys can disagree with us in the comments, make sure you guys do so. Also show your support, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you guys also check out the other Fight Pick videos.